Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Future of Real Estate series. We're here today with a very exciting guest. We're here with Bill Scavone, who is the president of the Weichert Real Estate Affiliates and is a super successful leader within the industry, someone with a depth of knowledge that we're hoping to tap into today to find out everything on the horizon in real estate. So welcome, Bill.
Well, thanks, Rachel. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
And I'd love to hear, before we get into all the cool, what's next, how is Weichert staying ahead? I'd love to hear just a little bit about how you got into real estate and kind of tell us your story.
Okay, sure. Well, it's an interesting one because I wasn't in real estate prior, obviously. I was working for a very large franchising company, probably the world's largest at the time, called Sendant. We had franchises in hotels, we had franchises in car rental, tax services, and of course, real estate. Um, Now, my office was right across the street from the Weichert World headquarters in New Jersey. A friend of mine was working at Weichert and developed the Weichert.com platform in our lead center. He told me Weichert started franchising. And he asked me if I had any interest in talking to them. And I said, no. I said, I'm perfectly fine. I'm happy. I love what I'm doing. So that went on for about 6 months where whenever we got together, our wives and we would go out to dinner. And it wasn't until I think it was December of 2004, that he said to me, it wouldn't hurt you to be one of the most successful business owners in the state of New Jersey. And I said, you know what, you're right. So I did. And that's how it all started. I ended up meeting with Jim Weichert, the founder of the company, 4 consecutive Fridays at 7 a.m. And it went from 7 to 8 o'clock. And we had great discussions. What I loved about it was my discussions with Jim Weichert were never about really real estate. It was about life. It was about family. It was about hobbies. It was about how do you keep management of your time. And then I'll never forget, he sprung it on me, goes, so do you want to do this? And I said, do what? I didn't even know what he wanted me to do at the time. We were just having great conversations. And then what really hit me was I did a tour of the facilities. We have 4 or 5 buildings on our campus in New Jersey. And it shocked me. I didn't realize how big Weichert was, even though it was in my backyard here. And as I went around and I saw the support mechanisms in place for the associates, the managers, and the offices, it really wowed me. And I was like, huh. And then I started thinking about it. What I was doing was more established. I was running development for Sendin at the time, one of their divisions. And this got me excited because it was really kind of like a mini startup, if you will. The company was around forever, but the franchise division was brand new, in business for a couple of years, 2, 3 years. And I looked at the opportunity. I said, this would be kind of cool to spread it across the country. And been there 16 years now. So, or I'm in my 16th year.
Well, that's awesome. And I love the story about really you just starting these conversations and actually not really intending them to be
Right.
anything else and then coming in with the close, right? Like a true
Yeah.
real estate agent.
He was awesome. I got to tell you, I was sold on Jim Weichert and the operation, because everything in the Weichert organization is systematized. And it made sense to me. I was like, wow, this makes sense. Like an agent, a manager, an owner of a franchise doesn't have to reinvent the wheel. It's already there for him, and I just love that piece of it.
So if I were interested in franchising, just out of curiosity,
Sure.
because Weichert is one of the most well-known and respected brands, I think, out there with a tremendous digital presence, and you do have all this behind you. I don't know what things were like in 2004. So can you tell me how you talked about the benefits of franchising in 2004 and whether anything has changed, today now in 2020?
Yeah, that's a great question. So in 2004, and I think at any time, if you look back in that decade, it was really about the operating system, right? And what's funny is what we were selling then, we're still selling now, except we have injected so much more to it. Think about it. Back then, 2004, no iPhone on the websites out there, right? The properties didn't even have their addresses on there. Google was just coming out, I think, at the time with the Google Earth looking down on the homes. So much has changed, but really not a lot has changed because our belief is, right, it's people buy people before they buy a product or service. That's number one in the Weichert world. That's our big saying, and it's Jim's from day one. That's never changed. Even in the world we're in today where we're half virtual, that still holds true. So how we sold it or pitched it or presented it back in 2004 really hasn't changed that much, except we've added ability, we've added product, we've added services to the core foundation. And when you think about that, That's how I look at the Weichert organization. We're strong with the I call it meats and potatoes, right? The selling of real estate, the taking care of every customer. And then what can you add to that to make that better? And I think that's how the pitch, if you will, has changed over time, is that we've added things to make you serve your customer better, because that's what it's about in the end, is the customer.
Absolutely. And I'm glad that you mentioned the customer, because your customer is different than your customer's customers, right? You have the franchisees and the agents, and then they have buyers and sellers. So can you talk a little bit about how, given this year and the elephant that's in the Zoom room is COVID-19, how has what your customers need changed this year or not?
Well, that's another great question. So, obviously we started 2020 tremendous, right? Going gangbusters. It was going to be a hot year. Then all of a sudden the brakes stopped, or we hit the brakes, and it plummets, of course, with the quarantines going on across the country. Luckily for us, and this is kind of interesting, we've always had a lot of this technology to be virtual. It just wasn't being used. I can't tell you how, right? We had Google, Microsoft Teams, Skype, all these different ways to video conference. We weren't using it. So what it did with us and how it changed quickly is we immediately, when we saw this coming, across the country, January, February, and then March, we were already planning on, okay, how do we go virtual? So when I think it was on March 16th, where, we had somebody in one of our buildings come down with COVID, we evacuated the building pretty quick, but we were already virtual. We already had everything in place. So what we did is we started implementing what I call full court press training, because some people got it, some people didn't. So I had our team get together really quick and put together a series of trainings that would get people up to speed quickly. When I say full court press, it was like 2-3 times a day. We're having people log in so we could train them on how to do that. So I think that's one way that it did. The other thing is we just had rolled out, thank goodness, this awesome technology at the end of 2019. And we finished literally rolling it out to all of our offices and agents, all this smart technology, CRM, virtual tools. I think we finally finished at the end of February. So, wow. I mean, that was kind of lucky at the same time. Who knew this was going to happen? But thank God we did that. We got all the things into the hands of the agents and our owners so that they could then service their customers.
Well, you know what a lot of entrepreneurs say is opportunity is a mix of luck and good planning. So
that's right.
I don't know that we'll call it completely lucky. I think you had to have that vision and look ahead. And so I want to talk about that a little bit, because none of us have a crystal ball. Right. And I am curious, what you see the next 2 to 3 years looking like now that you just rolled out this whole new technology system. Yeah. What are you hearing from your franchisees now? Is it all about adoption and training? And do you see that continuing, or do you see that there are still needs that aren't being met that you'd like to add to the portfolio?
Yeah, I think all the above. This stuff moves so fast, right? So what we have today is great. What will it be in a year and a half? I don't know, right? So when you're starting to look at these things, and how I look out 2 to 3 years, I look out as it's adoption, number one. Like, you're going to have to adopt some sort of these technologies. And when you look across the agent base, ownership base, management base, there's all different level of skill sets. Some people love the websites we give them. They don't use the CRM. Some people love the CRM we give them for basic stuff. I'm going to send out birthday and anniversary notices. Then there's some people who are just killing it, right? Using it for the artificial intelligence, the behavioral technology we have. They're doing some really cool things with it. I think what you'll see, just like the iPhone came out, I didn't have it. I still had like the old BlackBerry. I was going to wait and see how the iPhone worked. Now I love the iPhone, right? I have friends who hate the iPhone, and they have, I forgot the other technology that's out there, the other phone. I'm so into the Apple products. So I think what you'll see is you got to have adoption. It'll be at different levels. But then the key thing is execution, because what are you going to do with it? And you'll see out there, everyone wants technology. Everyone wants technology. Well, what technology? What are you going to use it for? What's your return on investment with it? Is it going to make you better, more efficient, speed up your process, allow you more time to go spend with people? Because I think we learned 2 things with this pandemic, at least I did. Number one, we can go virtual, no problem. I'm sitting in my kitchen right now. Work hard, be nice sign is in my kitchen. My kids grew up looking at that sign. I got to get out of my kitchen, right? So yeah, I could work virtual, but 2, I think we crave human interaction. I think we need that. I just had one of our our franchise salespeople report to me yesterday that, you know, they've been working out of their house, making phone calls, doing Zoom calls. There's only so much you can do. So he hit the road yesterday, and he said, it's so much better when you get to meet with people. You know, you get that connection, you get the body language, you get you connect better. But more so, he got a lead in the parking lot. You know, as he's going out, he's getting his car. He met someone, they started talking, and he got a lead to go talk to another broker in that market. So that wouldn't have happened on Zoom or anything like that, you know. So I think it's really adoption, and then it's execution. What are you going to use of all this great technology that we have? You know, that's what the future, and who knows what the future, in 2 years, it could be some other great things. Everything is getting faster. Everything gets speeded up. And you got to keep up with those things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so true. And I love that you shared the story about the parking lot too, because, you know, you can't have technology without the relationships, and you can't have the relationships without the technology. So it's both.
Right.
I'm curious, I want to talk about execution a little bit, because Weichert is a huge brand with, you know, dozens of offices, thousands of people, and, you know, measuring and understanding where things are going really well and where things aren't is not necessarily a real estate agent's natural strength.
Right.
And I would imagine that in order to achieve the kind of growth that you have, you actually do have some goals, some metrics, some things that you're looking at pretty regularly to make sure that you are growing and succeeding and doing and executing in, you know, in a good way. So can you talk to us about how you measure execution and what some of the expectations, if any, that you set for franchises or that they have for you are?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm going to try to cover a lot of that. The one thing why Weichert has grown. So it started with a single office in 1969, and now there's 500 retail offices, if you will, residential offices. We have 370 or so franchise offices in 41 states. We have 100 and something company-owned offices in the Mid-Atlantic footprint, New Jersey down to Washington, D.C. There's 17 other companies within the Weichert family of companies, the corporate relocation, our Weichert.com, corporate housing, mortgage title, insurance, all under one roof. People can get those services. So how do you get like that? How do you go from one office to that, right? I mean, we are one of the largest real estate organizations in the world. And what it does, it comes down from exactly what you're talking about, is measurements, key performance indicators. And one of the key things is, and this is one thing I think lacks in our industry, is just that. Because at the end of the month, it's too late to change anything. So what you need to do is we measure metrics, you know, 30, 60 days prior to figure out where we're going to be, because then you can make adjustments along the way to hit the goals and the numbers that you have. So that's one thing that we teach all of our managers, all of our franchise owners, company-owned managers, is how do you track these numbers? So I think the biggest thing we look at, number one, is a budget, because you got to make money at the end of the day. So we follow a budget very strictly, strict adherence to it. The other thing we do is we measure the activities. So there's activities, you wouldn't believe how many different activities we measure, because, you know, you have recruiting activities, you got per person productivity, you got open house activity, direct mail activities, phone call activities, all these kind of, how many listing presentations going on, what's your fall through rate, what's your average commission, all these kind of things are so important, but you got to measure it. We measure it on a daily basis, because like I said, once you get to the third week of the month, you got what, 5, 6, 7 days to catch up. It's not going to happen. So that's one of the things we do. So we set daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, annual goals. And the way I look at it is, in terms of success, we want to have more wins than losses. So as you're looking at your daily goals, did you win today or did you lose today? How many times did you win? How many times did you lose? And if you crack that up and you start looking at, if you're starting to look at it straight, you're like, the more wins you have, the better you're going to do, the more success you're going to have. So that's how we look at that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, and thank you for giving us such a detailed glimpse into the secret sauce, Weichert. And I'm curious too, I mean, what does then that communication look like? Because one of the things you talked about earlier is agent adoption and franchise adoption. And, you know, that can be a holy grail for companies out there, you know, and some people are kind of have given up on it almost and said, we actually just have to automate the whole process. We're going to use data to say, here are the 3 things you need to focus on, and actually then automate as much as possible so that they actually really are just talking to a customer, let's say after the appointment. But the whole lead nurture process is automated, for example, or, you know, any other step. So I'm curious what your take is on that, and how much is the support services that, you know, you provide versus you want the technology to do it for them versus you want to be able to use things like data to communicate, here's where your focus should be, and then let the people, you know, go towards it.
Yeah. I got to tell you, you know, we're all about people. We're all about communication. We're all about, and this is another thing we use. I never saw a tweet, a Facebook post, an Instagram, reach out and shake someone's hand. And I know that's kind of weird right now with COVID. You're not reaching out and shake hands. Maybe you're bumping elbows or whatever you're doing, but nothing can beat the interaction, either a phone call, a face-to-face, a cup of coffee. Those kind of things are so important to us. And like I said, technology should make us more efficient in getting to that step. And technology is good for some of the things that, you know, we train is like keep in touch with people, but you got to have in your contact program personal touches. And that's the one thing that we communicate all the time is we say focus on people, focus on, you know, the why of the people. Because when you look at what's going on in the industry, yeah, you're really, you know, listen, there'll be a portion of the industry, a portion of sales that will be, I don't know, technology driven or no people involved. I don't know. I highly doubt it's going to be a lot because it is such a difficult business. It's such a tough transaction. It's such an emotional transaction. I'm working right now with my cousin who had to sell a house. Her mom passed away a year ago. They had to sell the house. They had a reverse mortgage. So they had all this stuff going on. So they have the house up for sale. It gets the inspection. There's an oil tank buried in the front yard. Okay, so you need people involved in that because now the agent coordinated the remediation company, had the buyer, you know, was running out of time on the mortgage commitment. So people had to keep that together, not just the transaction, the emotion. My cousin's crying, the other people are freaking out. So how's that going to happen without a person involved to guide them, right? So in the end, people will always want to do this. Think about the car industry. Carvana's out there now delivering cars. Okay. But people still want to go and sit in the car they're going to buy, even though you can get the same, you know, Toyota RAV4 pretty much anywhere. It's the same. But why do you still go sitting in? I don't know. That would be the easiest industry to commoditize. And that hasn't even done that yet. So I think in our world, it's got to be about the people. Technology helps you get in front of more people.
Well, and that's so timely because I think now that things are opening back up again, that's kind of a reminder, right, of the value of the Jim Weichert style conversations. And so going back to Jim and going back to how you originally were convinced to come over to Weichert, I want to talk about agent recruiting and franchise recruiting a little bit and retention, because that's, you know, one of the ways you grow. So, you know, how has recruiting and retention changed in a pandemic? And also, what were you doing before the pandemic to recruit and onboard new franchises and also help them recruit and onboard top talent?
Right. So I'll start with the agent side of it. What I see from our owners is Zoom has actually made them more efficient. And I'm not saying Zoom, but Zoom, Google Meets, whatever they're using to do video conferencing. And it's helped them, you know, I think save time and be more efficient to talk to people. So think about that, right? You don't have the driving to the office or meet for coffee somewhere. It's done here. There's a downside to it, but I think the screening process, if you will, is better. I think with the furloughed employees that were out there, a lot of folks who did lose their jobs right away. I know our real estate schools got packed. So there's a lot of new people, I think, we're going to have an influx in the business soon once they all pass their state exams and get licensed. So I think on that side, it was good. I think it was efficient. I think going forward, it'll be tough if we can't get back face-to-face to build that culture that everyone has in an office, because every office has their own culture. And one way you develop that is being with each other, not through a screen like we're doing, right? On the franchise side, bringing on new franchises, we brought on a few during COVID. The one thing that's different there is we have all the tools for someone, right? We wouldn't be one of the largest real estate companies in the world if we didn't have tools to give to the agents and the owners. The thing that's missing is that bonding piece. What we did in the past pre-COVID, we'd bring folks in, have dinner with them, get to know them. Because to us, it was more important to get to know them as people than almost their business. Like, you know, this is a partnership as we're growing these businesses together. And it's important for us to break bread. You know, you learn a lot about people. We learn about their families. We want to know that kind of stuff about people first. You know, what's driving them? What's their purpose in life? What are their goals? And that's hard to do when you're, you know, again, you know, on a laptop screen and the earphones in. So that's changed a little bit, where now we're trying to build and bond and get all that through video conference and things like that. The other thing we do is show them around our campus, because we want them to meet as many people as possible, so they build trust, that they see that we have a marketing department that does an unbelievable job. Meet our technology people, do little demos throughout our office, meet the people walking down the hallway holding a folder, and get to know them that you'll never have an interaction with, but it gives you a sense of the culture of our company. So we want that. So that's been a little different for us, because I want people to experience us before they join. But we're making do with it anyway. But hopefully we can get back to our normal routine with that.
Yeah, well, and I love that you talk about the campus, because you mentioned that in your process of coming on board. And so I'm curious, have you added or do you use any tools like, the DISC assessment, or have you done like virtual tours of the campus, or have you like digitized any of those pieces?
No, we haven't. So, our campus is empty right now. That's why it's kind of hard to do it, because we're only essential people, the accountants, the attorneys, and things like that are going in. And so there's not the people to talk to. So we haven't done that yet. I have met a couple people who drove in to see us and took them through, but it's not the same. We have over 1,000 people walking in our campus. There's energy, there's excitement. There's people working on. We literally take the people, bring them into someone's cubicle or office, and they'll see what they're working on. We want them to see what we're all about. So it's hard to virtual tour that. I could walk through with my Facebook Live or whatever. But what we've been doing is zooming in the support people and leaders of each team to talk to folks on a one-on-one basis. So that's a little different as well.
Well, and that makes sense. And yeah. I'm curious, because some of your success undoubtedly is just because of the strength of the Weichert brand. And one of the things you mentioned is the marketing team that you have that does a phenomenal job. So I'd love to talk a little bit more about what you've seen has been most successful for you from a marketing standpoint, what you've really done to help build your brand.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not one thing, and I tell people that all the time. So when you're looking at building a brand, so when we open up across the country, most of the time we don't have an office there because we spread across the country, right? So we opened up. I'll give you an example. A few years ago in Bellingham, Washington. It's on the border of Canada, and great team of people up there. They joined and did everything. Like we have this whole onboarding, get the name known guide of what you need to do, but. So it's not just one thing. So obviously it starts off with connecting with all past customers, all your past clients with simple things, right? So we want to attack it with a full circle of marketing 360. Believe it or not, the best way to get the name out there is sales activities. So it's not billboards, it's not TV, it's on the street, right? So if you have listings, our open house program, everyone does open houses. We do it a very unique way, a very organized way that gets a ton of signage out there and a ton of activity. So we really train that hard. And believe it or not, it sounds old school, but it still works today, even in this market. So that's one thing. Obviously, we hammer social media and get that all out there. Mail works. We're doing outdoor, out of home. So we're doing all that stuff. But in the end, the very best is the sales activity being done every single day, because that's consistency. Because you could put a billboard up, but I don't see any signs out there. What good is that? What's that billboard? So you want someone to see a billboard. You want someone to see a direct mail piece. You want someone to see a social media post, something on Facebook. Then you want to see for sale signs all over the place. Then you want to see just sold cards going out, right? So you need to hit them with a combination. And, people need to see things 10, 12 times now. And the way with media is today, it's hard to capture an audience right now. The best way is visually. And by the way, our color is yellow. That just sticks out everywhere. So once you get those signs up, it's a winner. Yeah. So that's what we're seeing.
Awesome. So multiple touch points, multiple channels, just blanket the market.
Yeah. But with sales activities.
Yep.
Because it does no good. You can put an ad out wherever you want, but if it's not supported by the street, you have nothing. So we call it like a sales funnel. We cover them up here with out of home, with social media, with other things, PR, but the rubber has to hit the road. It's got to be local in the street. And that's the best way to do that.
Awesome. Well, speaking of local in the street, so one of the things that Weichert obviously has done, huge global brand with local presence. There are quite a few competitors out there that are trying to do the same thing. Right. There's obviously the big Z word and the portals, and then there's other brokerages, the Indies, the Compasses, NRT. So can you talk to me a little bit about how you feel about some of the new brokerage models, the EXPs, and which ones, if any, you think will last, and kind of why you feel really good about the Weikert way in comparison to these other types.
Okay, so here you go. You ready to go on this one?
Ready.
All right. There's all these different models out there. There's whatever, you got iBuyers, there's a bunch doing that. You got other folks doing, even within traditional models, you've got flat fee models. Those are all commission compensation models. And I don't really pay attention to them. What we pay attention to, we can't control what everyone else does. What can we control is ourself. All we can control is what Weikert does. And who will win and who will last is the company, the individual, the manager, whatever, that takes care of their clients the best. That's it. We're all in the same business. Everyone's trying to get money, right, in this industry. That's what's happening. There's a lot of money in real estate. So you got people trying to jump in saying, I want a piece of that. In the end, whoever takes care of the buyers and sellers the best, whoever's the trusted advisor, they're going to win. Now, they could win in one town and not the other, but because it's a local business, right? So who's going to win, who's going to lose? I don't know, but who's going to lose are the ones who don't take care of the customer. I think that's as simple as I can say. And so there'll be somebody else entering this business. There'll be somebody else coming in. And when you look at it, it's who takes care of the customer. I look at Weikert, and our sole focus, I remember, comes right from Jim Weikert. He says, I can't control what everyone else is doing. I can't control what they offer associates. I can't control what they offer consumers. I can't control that. All I can control is what we do. So we're laser focused on what can we do to be better, and let everyone else do what they want to do. Good thing is there's a lot of homes out there. There's a lot of people out there. There's room for a lot of different models, and that's fine. As long as we take care of our customer, we're going to be fine and we'll last. We're in our 51st year as a company. Things have been crazy over the 50 years. We've seen wars. We've seen now pandemics, terrorist attacks, high inflation, high interest rates, low interest rates, no inventory, too much inventory. So you adjust as you go on. That's the one thing I love about Weikert. We have a core sound foundation that doesn't change. It's rock solid, right? Dealing with people. Boom. We have systems in place. Then we add in what we need to add in to give us a better advantage working with our buyers and sellers. And if we do that, we'll just keep being successful. So it's kind of focused like that.
Yeah, I love that. And actually at Union Street Media, we believe the same. We believe that real estate agents aren't going anywhere. People still, as you mentioned, for all the things you mentioned about the emotional investment and more, that there's value.
Yeah. Well, when you think about it, agents are being used more now than ever before. How is that? With all this technology and all these different companies coming and doing this, NAR came out and said, people are using a realtor more now than ever before. And when you think about it, people, consumers, are so busy and they got so many things going on. Many of them working 2-3 jobs to make ends meet. You think they want to go deal? No, they want a trusted advisor, someone they like and they trust, they'll do business with. It's that simple,
Yeah. Well, and one of the things that I am curious about, because you've mentioned this a couple of times, is sort of things will change, right? Yep. And we're going to go through, hopefully not another pandemic once we get out of this one. And you can't always know what's on the horizon. To that extent, though, you can stay in touch, in tune to trends that are affecting the industry. So what is your advice out there? What resources do you use to stay on top of sort of the next big thing? And are there things that you advise, franchise owners use or agents out there to stay kind of up with what's happening?
Yeah, that's another thing. There's a lot of misinformation in our industry as well, or glorified headlines that people are reading. I think what we do is we look at what's going on out there. We see what's happening, what could be game changers. We stay our course, right? So we stay our course. We're not going to jump. There's a lot of companies do that. They see someone over here being like, okay, I'm doing this and this, and I'm growing. Let me change my philosophy. Let me do this. Let me do it. We don't, right? We stay the course. And then when we see the right time, then we jump in to figure that out. So years ago, when you think about it, right before I started, Weikert.com was a brochure website, like most of them out there. And then all of a sudden you start seeing, we're getting phone calls of other companies trying to sell us leads. And we're like, wait a minute, what's this about, right? So we adapted, we created a lead generating website, Weikert.com, heavily traveled. So we adjusted to that because of the change going on. Years ago, Jim was brilliant in the one-stop shopping. He started that back in the 70s because he's like, all right, if I'm working with somebody, I might as well take care of them, and I'll make sure they can get the mortgage, the financing, the insurance. I'll do their title work. Boom, that was created. Relocation was another side of the business. All of a sudden, a lot of brokers were sitting back getting relocation business sent in. We looked at it and Jim was like, I'm going to create my own relocation company and I'll feed myself that business, right? So that's how things just kind of constantly evolve. And we innovate as you go along. So I think, you just see what's happening in the marketplace. iBuying is an interesting thing right now, I think, is there's iBuyers out there. Okay, well, that's kind of always have been out there. So now somebody said, okay, that's what we're going to focus on. I don't think there's enough business for one, to make a lot of money, if you will, or service a lot in the iBuying mode. Now you see a lot of them are getting into, well, let me do more traditional sales. Well, you have to, right? Because I don't know how many people want to just do the iBuying. It doesn't make sense to me. But eventually, I think what will happen, just like everything else, everyone's going to have an iBuying facet to their company, right? There'll be a third party or someone else will come up with a way to offer it to everybody. Now everyone's doing iBuying, plus they can list your home the traditional way. Mm-hmm. So I think that's what you'll see happening.
Right. So it's not necessarily that there's a next big thing that's going to change the way we do business. It's just that it's going to give people more choice, more options.
I think it's going to be more options. And I think the biggest thing is going to be speed. Mm-hmm. Is things are going to get sped up, right? And blockchain's not talked a lot about. I don't understand it fully, but I studied it a little bit. And, things like blockchain, where you have the whole transparent ledger system behind it, will be a way to speed up transactions, right? Get information faster. So, I think that's going to be coming down the pike. It's going to be hard, I think, for real estate to understand it at first. Mm-hmm. And, but everything in life, look at the first iPod that came out, right? I had it was big, and then it kept getting smaller. Then you don't even need it anymore. So everything gets smaller, faster, more convenient. And that's what it's going to happen with our transaction. So I think people are still going to want to see a home. They're still going to have an agent do the negotiation and take care of them, be their trusted advisor. And then that middle piece, that transaction piece before you take ownership, that's going to probably thin out, get faster, get easier, get simpler. So we know it's coming. Who's going to control it? I don't know.
I love it. And I'm glad you reminded me about iPods. I miss my iPod.
I know. I still got it, actually. I don't know. It's like a collector's item.
You do. Yeah, hold on.
Play the music on it.
It's worth a lot. Well, Bill, this has been awesome. I have one more question before I let you go. Looking back, you've given us a lot of really great advice, a lot of insight into where you think the industry is going, what you think will stay the same. I'm curious, what you would tell your younger self today when you're first getting into real estate, or even before that.
Oh, I thought you meant way back. I was going to say, don't go to that party I went to back in 1988. So
you can go there if you want.
No. What would I tell myself? I really don't know about the whole real estate thing. I could tell you this. When I got out of college, I got into sales, and I was going door-to-door sales, selling coupons and advertising, and I'd make $30 here, $50 here, $75 commission. And looking back, I tell myself, don't do that. Get into real estate, because you're going to put the same effort in. I'd make a hell of a lot more money than what I did, right? Because it's a big ticket item. So that's one thing I would tell myself is when you get out of school, get into real estate or something where what you sell has a big commission, right? Because you put the same amount of hours and effort in the thing. So that's what I would tell myself on to go back in time for that, for real estate.
Well, there's a lot of people who might be looking for that next thing now. So you already mentioned the number of people who've started getting their licenses, but right. I think Weichert is probably hiring, right?
Our business is simple. It's not easy.
Yeah.
Okay. And what the not easy part is, you got to hear, this is what I tell people. I'm going to show you a picture. Suit up and show up. If you suit up and show up every day and you do the activities and you connect with people, it's almost like a guarantee you're going to do well in this business. It really is.
I love it.
I think that's important for people to realize. There's a lot of people right now who are passive. They're waiting for business to come to them. They're buying leads from these third-party companies, where if you owned your relationships, you owned your database, if you will, and you connected with them with smart communications constantly, not salesy, just smart communications, why in the world would they go to anybody else but you? You're their friend, they trust you, they like you, they'll do business with you. And that's where I think it's got to go, which sounds old school, but guess what? It works, It's not old school. It's forever. This is the way things are, But if you just do those things, you own everyone that you connect with, and you're their trusted advisor, you're going to win.
Well, and it's also valuing your time more highly too. So I like that, you're talking about that. Suit up and show up, work hard and be nice. I think there are
That's
many
right.
more Billisms if we had hours.
I got a bunch. I borrow them from everybody though, by the way. None of them are original, so it's okay.
Oh, well, the best ideas are the ideas you took from someone else and just made better.
That's right. That's right.
Well, Bill, this has been awesome. For everyone who joined a little later, this is Bill Scavone. He is the president of Weichert Real Estate Affiliates. I'm Rachel Allard with Union Street Media. This is the future of real estate. Thank you so much, Bill.
Thanks, Rachel. I appreciate it. Have a great day.